Macabre Coven. We are venomous sin.
And venomous sin declares war on hypocrisy, fake fucks, and the politically correct world that tries to silence you.
We are the band that refuse to kneel.
And stand up for the ones the world tries to silence with fake smiles and so-called status.
You screamed, we hear.
And you are not alone.
The first time I put on a corset, it didn't feel like clothing. It felt like revenge. There was something holy in the silence before I pulled the first lace tight, as if the body I'd hated, the body I'd mocked, the body that had been touched without consent, commented on without invitation, judged without understanding, was finally mine to sculpt, not for them, not to seduce, not to conform, but to reclaim, to wrap, to reinforce. Welcome to the Macabre Coven. I'm Lina Macabre, and this is the first part of what I think might be the most misunderstood, misused, and mistreated piece of fashion in history, the corset. Not because it hurt women, but because it never stopped haunting them, because the corset doesn't just cinch the waist, it exposes the very idea of control, and because everything people fear about it is true, but only when they're the ones holding the laces. Tonight, we're going deep into the timeless allure of the corset. We're not just talking fabric and bones. We're going to talk power. We're going to talk submission, and we're going to talk about why we still choose them. In a world that's never stopped trying to define what we should look like, how we should breathe, and when we're allowed to take up space. Let's begin. The corset is one of those rare things that's never just one thing. It's armor and elegance. It's restriction and rebellion. It's oppression in one century and empowerment in the next. You put one on, and people think they know what you're trying to say. But the truth is, most of them are just afraid to ask. Because wearing a corset, even now, still makes a statement, even when no one understands it. For some, corsets represent a return to glamour, old Hollywood lines, hourglass fantasy, elegance redefined. For others, it's historical cosplay or vintage aesthetic. For some, it's pure sex, lace, leather, dom power, breathless submission. And for others still, it's just a way to feel strong, grounded, contained, real. Me, it's all of it, and none of it. Because for me, a corset isn't a costume. It's a cage I built myself, and that makes all the difference. Historically, corsets were used to sculpt the body. That's the line you'll hear everywhere. But what nobody wants to admit is how often women weren't shaping themselves to fit the times. They were being shaped by the hands of culture, by marriage, by religion, by beauty standards that changed with every new regime. In the Renaissance, corsets flattened the bust. In the Victorian era, they lifted it. In the Edwardian age, they pushed it forward and tilted the pelvis. You weren't supposed to exist in your own shape. You were supposed to exist as an object of design. And behind every tight waist was a silent scream no one wanted to listen to. But the story didn't end there, because eventually, women didn't just wear corsets. They weaponized them in burlesque, in fetish fashion, in gothic subculture, in BDSM, in metal, in theater, on stage, in revolution. What began as a symbol of suppression was flipped on its steel-boned head and reborn as defiance. Corsets stopped hiding under gowns and started standing on their own, paired with fishnets, leather, combat boots, lipstick that bleeds like a wound you're proud of. Suddenly, the corset wasn't about making yourself smaller. It was about making the world uncomfortable with how big your presence had become. Let's talk about allure. There is something unshakable about a silhouette that knows exactly what it's doing. When you walk into a room laced in steel, posture immaculate, waist drawn in, chest elevated, you don't beg for attention. You seize it. You hold it in your ribs like a secret. And that's the thing. A corset doesn't shout. It doesn't explain itself. It just shapes silence into tension, and people feel it. Some call it elegance. Some call it intimidation. Some just stare because they don't have words for what it triggers in them. And that's the point. A corset doesn't need words. It speaks through the body, through presence, through breath, or the lack of it. And when I wear one, I don't feel like I'm dressing up. I feel like I'm finally dressed down to the truth. Let's break the stereotype that corsets are only about vanity, that it's all about appearance, that women only wear them to be pretty, sexy, desirable. That's such a weak, modernized take on something so much more primal. Corsets are about tension, not just physical, but emotional, mental, existential. They embody everything we try to control and everything we fail to. You can pull the laces as tight as you want, but there's always something inside you that shifts. The corset becomes a mirror, a metaphor, a meditation. And yes, they're uncomfortable at first, but so is truth, so is growth, so is every time you've had to hold yourself together in a world that wanted to rip you apart. So don't come to me with comfort talk. I don't wear corsets to feel cozy. I wear them because they make me feel alive, because they remind me that beauty, when chosen, is pain with purpose. Let's pause here, because we're just getting started. In the next part, I'm going to take you through the anatomy of a corset, types, materials, styles, overbust, underbust, mesh, leather, brocade, why I choose the ones I do, how they each serve a different mood, a different scene, a different need, and we're going to talk about the very real, very physical transformation that happens when your body is sculpted not by someone else's gaze, but by your own demand. But for now, sit with this. The corset has always been about more than shape. It's about declaration. It's about choosing something that takes effort, that challenges, that transforms, that leaves marks. And I don't want a life or a body that doesn't leave marks. Let's get into the bones of it. You know what the corset means to me, but now I want you to understand what it actually is. Because not all corsets are the same. And if you think you've seen one, you've seen them all, then you've probably only seen a Halloween costume or some Pinterest disaster held together by plastic and a prayer. So let's lace this up right. Corsets come in different styles, different shapes, different moods, and they all do something different to the body and to the mind. It's not just aesthetic, it's architecture, it's intention, it's strategy. Start with the basics, and by that I mean the two foundational types, overbust and underbust. The overbust corset covers the chest, supports the bust, and extends down over the torso. It's bold, it's commanding. It eliminates the need for a bra and replaces it with structure. When I wear an overbust, I don't feel like I'm dressing up. I feel like I've entered battle mode. These are perfect for stage, for visuals, for when I want my chest elevated like a warning sign. And depending on the cut, sweetheart neckline, straight edge, plunge, you can push different signals. Sometimes I want it romantic. Sometimes I want it severe. Sometimes I want it so sharp it could slice through a fuckboy's ego from across the room. Then there's the underbust corset. It starts just below the bust and cinches the waist, allowing full freedom on top. This is where layering becomes an art form. I pair these with sheer mesh, cut up band tees, or just bare skin when I want the corset to feel like punctuation, rather than a headline. Underbusts are incredibly versatile. They're movement-friendly, breathable, and still powerful. They're a subtle threat, a slow burn. And if you're into minimalism, but make it sadistic, meet the waspie. This is a short corset that targets the waist only. No chest, no hips, just that brutal cinch right in the middle. It's the corset equivalent of a knife to the ribs. It's fast, aggressive, perfect for everyday wear if you're the kind of person who likes to feel sharp before coffee. For those who want full coverage, there's the longline corset. It extends over the hips and creates a more elongated silhouette. These are perfect if you want that smooth, elegant curve from bust to thighs. It's not as easy to move in, but sometimes you don't want to move. Sometimes you want to root yourself in your own shape and make the world adjust. Now, let's step back in time. If you're drawn to the classics, you'll meet the Victorian corset. an icon of Gothic femininity. This one's longer, curvier, with high backs and dramatic waist definition. It's made for tight lacing. It's not here to flirt, it's here to dominate. When I wear a Victorian corset, I feel like I'm haunting the patriarchy, gracefully, ruthlessly. Then you have the Edwardian S-curve corset. It changes your posture entirely, chest forward, hips back, waist pulled in. This silhouette created the illusion of motion, even when standing still. There's something about that forced curve that feels inherently confrontational to me, like the body's being pushed into its own refusal to soften. I wear this when I want elegance with tension, grace under fire. Now let's get technical. Corsets are made up of very specific components, and if one of them fails, the whole thing falls apart. You've got the busk, the front closure, usually steel. It allows you to open and close the corset without unlacing it every time. It's rigid. Snapping it shut is like locking a door from the inside. Then there's the boning, the internal structure that shapes and supports the corset. High-quality corsets use steel boning, either flat steel or spiral steel. Spiral steel is flexible, lets you move, breathe, dance. Flat steel is unforgiving. It holds the line. It doesn't negotiate. A real corset has both, just like I do. And behind it all is the lacing. That's the power cord. That's where control lives. You pull it, adjust it, thread it through the grommets. Some people use modesty panels, an extra piece of fabric behind the lacing to protect the skin. I don't. If I'm gonna wear a cage, I want to feel every bar. Let's talk fabrics, because a corset's voice changes with its skin. Cotton corsets are breathable, soft, beginner-friendly, but they're not stage pieces. They don't scream, they whisper. Satin corsets glide. They shine under harsh lights. They seduce with every shift, but they show every flaw, which makes them perfect. Brocade corsets, ornate, textured, regal. These are thrones for the body. They speak in old languages. Leather corsets, hard, heavy, dominant. They hold sweat like secrets and age like scars. I wear them when I want to smell like fire and tension. Mesh corsets, airy, flexible, unforgiving in their own way. They expose you, literally. And exposure, chosen on your own terms, is just another kind of weapon. And finally, training corsets. These aren't for fun. They're for reshaping. Long-term waist training, maximum tension, reinforced everything. These are for the ones who want to carry weight, pain, posture, and power every day. They aren't about beauty, they're about change, and discipline, and devotion. But the truth is, none of these are better than the others. They're just different tools for different days, different versions of the same truth. Whether I'm in a heavy overbust or a mesh waspy, I'm not wearing it for the world. I'm wearing it for the feeling, for the posture, for the reminder that I'm built on choices, not chance. A corset is not passive. It doesn't just sit on your body. It changes how you move, how you breathe, how you sit, how you exist. It demands something from you, and the world doesn't like women, or anyone, who demands something back. But I do. So wear the leather, lace the brocade, cinch the mesh, break in the steel, pick your weapon, pick your structure, and never, ever loosen it for someone who didn't earn the right to see you unravel. This has been the Corset Episode. I'm Lina Macabre, and now you know why I wear my cage with pride, because it never belonged to them. It's mine. You've been listening to the Macabre Coven. I'm Lina Macabre, and if your breath caught somewhere between elegance and agony tonight, then good. That's the point. If you want more venom, more steel, more truth laced tight, you know where to find us. Venomousin.com, the band, the visuals, the scars we turned into art. And if you're still here, still holding your breath, maybe it's time you put something on that reminds you what it costs to be free. Until next time, stay sharp, stay laced, and never loosen for comfort. Ever.
If you like the show, hit subscribe, share it to anyone you think should hear it.
If you ever been silenced, manipulated, excluded, we are here for you. We are Venomous Sin.
And Venomous Sin declares war!
You are not alone.